going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome back to the Mental Breakdown. I'm your host, Joey Velez. Not joined by anybody today, but in an effort to kind of get more content out there, get some more information out there on the podcast, figured to just hop on there and do a little quick shorty by myself. Just kind of chat, see how things are going. Currently got the Olympics on. Right now it's a big time, and I love the Olympics. I think it's a good chance to see people competing at the highest levels of what they do. Uh, I think it's also fun to see some of the emotion that gets poured out by a lot of these athletes, because I think it's a different ball game, versus competing at like the professional level because now you're representing your country. I think the other day I was watching the women's rugby match, specifically the bronze medal match with the USA. And I don't know if you saw it, but they scored at the last second, full length of the field. I think they said it was equivalent to like a 99-yard game-winning touchdown in the NFL. But watching them score and watching the emotion poured out by the players, my eyes started to water. I started to cry, like not because I was sad, obviously, but because of the joy I saw in everybody's faces. So I think that's one thing with the Olympics that I find truly fascinating is the emotion, the dedication that people have for their countries as they compete in their sports. But obviously, with the field of sports psychology, I think there's a lot of it's a big stage. So you see a lot of individuals coming out talking about mental health, talking about their work with sports psychologists, their work with mental performance coaches, which I think is great. However, part of me does feel a type of way because when I look at these individuals, because I think it's great that athletes are putting the time in to work on the mental aspect of their performance, the mental aspect of their lives. I think that is awesome. But it seems like a lot of the people they work with don't have degrees in the field. And I don't know how I feel about that quite just yet. Because on one hand, I'm happy that the idea of mental skills training is getting the love it deserves and the love it needs, but it's being trained by people who don't have formal education in it. So I don't know, man. Like I went through my years of grad school. I have the student loan debt to prove it, but then you have people out there who are making an impact who didn't go through the educational process. So it's weird, it's a weird spot to be in. I don't want to hate on anybody's profession. I don't think it's necessarily about the people who are doing the work. I think it's more just the fact like, okay, well then why did I get my degree if I don't necessarily? So I don't know. It's weird. It wouldn't change me going back and do I get my degree? Do I not? No, like I'm still going to do the things that I do. It's just something interesting that I've noticed today. I saw some athletes talking about someone they work with, and then I checked them out because like, oh, that guy sounds pretty sweet, and then turns out they just have their MBA, and it's like, am I doing something wrong here? I don't know. But shout out to all those athletes putting in the work, um, getting their mental game right. Shout out to the coaches who are helping athletes and making an impact with people along the way. So don't think this is me hating on the work that people are doing because I'm not. Uh, it's just something I've noticed. So everybody keep doing what you're doing as long as you're getting the work. I think that's all that really matters. Um, so a couple days ago, we also I don't think I've mentioned this on this podcast before, but I write for a magazine every month called Haiti Polo Lifestyles. It's a luxury lifestyle magazine. And how that came about, man, I've been doing this for about, I want to say like 5, 6 years. I remember working out at the gym, Functional Muscle Fitness in Concord, California. Shout out Mark Wine and the people over there. Good vibes. But I met an individual. His name is Claude. Super cool dude. Got to get him on the show. He's a polo player. He's a big time ambassador for just the area of Haiti. So he's done a lot of good work there within the sport. Just I think just within uh, in the area as well. So he's not just an athlete. He's much more. But he approached me yeah, 5, 6 years ago, and he was talking to me about his magazine. I told him what I did, and he gave me the opportunity. Like, hey, would you like to write a monthly mental wellness column? I was like, hell yeah, why not? I wasn't much of a writer at the time, nor do I view myself as a writer now, but it was just another way for me to talk about what I do and what I love. And here we are, yeah, 5, 6 years later, and we're still doing it. But so this just came out the other day. And I'll put the link in the bio. It's also on my Instagram, Velez Mental Performance. Um, so you can take a look. It's an online magazine. I think my article is typically towards the end of the magazine. But this month was really about fear, and being able to live with the fears that you have, because I think fear gets a bad rap. I shouldn't be afraid. I should do this. I should do that. However, I think fear is just a common emotion that we experience. So whether it is the fear of the unknown, fear of failure, like fear of rejection, whatever some of those fears that you have that potentially hold you back, I think the first thing, and this is what we talk about in the article, is that it's it's okay to have a fear related to something. I work with a lot of pilots, and I think a big thing that comes up with them is this fear of failure. However, I think you can use failure in a lot of ways to kind of motivate yourself. Right? So for me, one thing I dealt a lot with in grad school was once school was done, there was no more school. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Once, the school year ended in June, summer break, right back at it after 2, 3 months. Well, my last semester of grad school, that wasn't obviously the case. It was like school's done. Okay, now what? So I noticed there was a little bit of fear of like not knowing what's next. And I think part of it was just kind of accepting the fact that, hey, like, yeah, this is there there is no guarantee. Once the semester's ended, there is no summer break anymore. It's off into the real life. But I think, you know, using that fear as like an opportunity, now I get to go out and spread my wings and kind of put this information that I've learned to use. I think oftentimes, when people have like a fear of failure, it can be crippling to the sense where people hold back, where maybe they don't even try whatever that task, whatever that performance is. I think it's okay to be afraid of failure because nobody wants to fail. If it was up to us, I'm sure, every time I went out there and shot a basketball, it would go in. Every time I went out there and swung a club on the golf course, it would go exactly where I want it to go. I don't think any of us inherently want to mess up or want to fail. However, you can also use that as motivation to do what you need to do to be successful. Right. So like if I'm afraid to fail because of this, well, what do I need to do? What can I do to put myself in a position to succeed? Right. So I think part of it is just redirecting, acceptance, right? So acknowledging that failure is an option, but then redirecting your attention to what you want to be doing in that moment to make sure you give yourself the best chance possible. And notice how I'm saying what you want to do as opposed to what you don't want to be doing. Well, I don't want to, I'm afraid to fail and I don't want to mess up. So make sure just you don't do this. Well, now you're thinking about it, right? Now your body's mobilizing the energy it needs to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's almost like you're playing from behind the eight ball as opposed to in front of it, you know? So I think that's one thing, but I think that's also where practicing mindfulness comes into play. I think mindfulness just teaches you to be aware of your present moment experiences, without judging yourself. So I think there is something to acknowledging what sensations are present, what you're feeling physically, emotionally, when you experience this fear of failure. And I think sometimes even just that simple acknowledgement, that simple noticing of what you're experiencing, as opposed to judging yourself for experiencing those things, can be what you need to kind of redirect your attention and put your foot forward in a more productive way. So I think one thing to think about is what are some of those things that you are fearful of, so I think the first thing is, yeah, just defining what fear is to you, what's causing that fear, what are some things that I possess, skills, knowledge, traits, that I can use to kind of help me cope and deal with this fear in a more productive way. So I think it starts with building self-awareness on like what it is that you're fearful of, but also like what do I possess that can help me in these moments. But then I think also not trying to fight it, not trying to avoid these fears that you have. Lean into them. What does it feel like? Where does it come from? Learn about it, because I think the more you learn about it, the more you're going to be able to handle it in a more effective way. So yeah, I'm going to post the link in the bio. Like I said, it's on my Instagram, and then you can check out all the other articles I've done over the years. Like I said, I've been doing this for about 5-6 years now. And then go ahead and give Polo Lifestyle Magazine a follow too. Uh, got a lot of interesting content on there as well. A lot of interesting people who write for the magazine, so always support the brand. Um, and then I think another thing, and I also posted on Instagram today. So in an effort to kind of just put more things out there, because I enjoy helping people in whatever fashion I can. I made a post on my story today about the value of reflection. In this case, weekly reflections. So I think that's going to help us not only learn and improve our skill sets, but to also like enhance what it is that we're already doing. So something I talk about, with the athletes I work with is whether your performance was good or bad, getting the consistent habit of going through a reflection. What went well? Why? What led to that thing going good? Like why did that thing happen? But then also, how can I make sure that I continue to do that thing well? So I think regardless of what happens, you want to identify the things that you do good, because that's going to help, build confidence that I am doing things correctly, and also maybe even build motivation, because like, hey, if I just keep doing this, I'm going to get better. You know, but then, like anything, you want to look at the things you want to get better at, right? If it's a deficiency in my performance, then hey, if I put a little bit of effort towards it, then if that gets better, then theoretically my skills are going to improve, right? So I think it's the same thing. You want to look at what's something that didn't go well, what led to that thing not going well, but then also what is the tangible action to improve upon that thing, right? So how do I make sure that the next time I'm in that situation, the next time that thing happens, I can either be better from it or I'm more equipped to kind of handle it. And I think that's going to provide you, again, the spark to kind of build on your skill set, because like, hey, yeah, here's this one thing that went wrong, but like I actually have a tangible way of fixing this thing, so it also guide your attention towards like, your next practice training sessions. Like, let me just maybe focus a little bit more time on this thing, um so that I can be more competent at that thing, more effective at whatever that skill is, so yeah, I think, yeah, regardless of what happens in your performance, good or bad, regardless of how your day was, good or bad, get in the same habit of doing what went well, what didn't go well. Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is today's Sunday, right? So end of a long week for everybody, end of a weekend. I think most people today do a lot of chores, get themselves ready for the upcoming week, and I think this could be a part of it. While I do believe in the importance of like self-care and relaxation, it is Sunday, kick your feet up, relax, do what you gotta do, lay on the couch, watch 4 episodes of Game of Thrones. Not speaking from experience, by the way. Yeah, go ahead and relax, do what you gotta do. But I think also it's like, how do I help get myself ready for the next day? Well, let me look at this past week. What did I do well? Let me look at this past week. What could have been better? And then now we can use that information to kind of set us up for a fresh start on Monday, right? So I think for me, I think one of the things that I did well, and I think this kind of ties into a athletic performance, but it's golf. So I think I'm I'm trying to self teach myself, like I'm no scrub, right? I'm out there shooting high 80s, low 90s, which is fine, but uh yeah, I'm trying to learn and get better. So I think one thing I did well this week, especially in terms of golf, was looking at a couple of different videos on YouTube, on Instagram, not overwhelming myself, but look like one or two things and then go to the range and practice implementing those things. Typically when I go to the range, I'll just grab a big bucket and just hit ball after ball after ball after ball, really going for more of the quantity practice. But I think I've been starting to have more quality practices, so I'll look at the video, I'll see what the tool of the mechanic is, and then I'll be more deliberate at applying that tactic in the range session. So even I'll hit the ball and then I'll step off and kind of just do a couple little like dry swings, that way I'm not rushing. And I think it's actually really helped out on the golf course too. I've caused myself to slow down on the golf course. Um, I've started to make better contact, so it's clearly paying off, and it's something I want to keep doing because I think golf is such a hard sport. It's so challenging, but I think that's the one thing I appreciate about it. Is that you can go out there for if you play 18 holes, you're out there for 4 hours. You can get it's a lot of opportunity for me to practice the stuff that I preach. A lot of failure. 1 degree off in your club face is going to cause the ball to go who knows wherever, right? There'll be times where I'll have like a bad first or second shot, and you have the initial disappointment and frustration of failing. But hey, guess what? You have another shot in the next 5 minutes. So I think just being able to implement what I do has also been been something that's gone well this week with the sport of golf too. In terms of improvement, I think this has come up a lot, and the last 2 days have gotten better for sure. But one thing I've definitely struggled with is sticking to a nutrition plan. And I think the one thing I notice is that comes up is that I'm in a constant battle of I want to do this, I don't want to do this. I don't care what I look like, I care what I look like. So I think even with my mentality, there is a lot of back and forth, and it's leading to a lot of inconsistency in my eating patterns. Now the tough thing is like I know I'm capable because I just did it, last year, last February to August ish. I was on a 6 month nutrition plan and I ended up losing like, gosh, I don't know, 20, 30 pounds. Got down to like 190, 185, 190. So I know I have it in me, and then even there'll be times out here where it's like I'll do it for a week in a row and then I just kind of lose interest. So I think one thing I want to get better at is that. And I think what the tangible improvement is I need to really sit down and understand why I want to do it. And I think that's the one thing that I'm currently missing is I feel like part of me is doing it either for other people or part of me is doing it because like I feel like I should be doing it, so I'm really bleeding into these attachments or labels on myself. So I think one thing is truly understanding like my intent behind why I want to be on a meal plan, but then I also think being able to practice more mindfulness to kind of help manage these moments. Because mindfulness, we talked about this, on here, I believe before, talked about in the magazine, but like one big part of mindfulness is shedding yourself of expectations, of attachments, of labels, and just kind of accepting the situation for what it is. So I think developing a more consistent mindfulness practice could also help me in that avenue as well. And that's what I challenge you to think about today, whenever, or this week, whenever you listen to this episode. I don't think it has to be on a Sunday. You can do this every day. You can do this Friday, whatever works for you. Yeah, think about what is 1 to 3 things that went well this week. Reflect on it. 1 to 3 things I want to be better at. Reflect on it. And I think it's important to constantly view those things so you can be reminded of those things so that you can continue to build your skill set, continue to build self-awareness on what you do and why you do things. But that's all I got for y'all today. I just want to hop on. I didn't really know what to expect with this, but I just want to come on, say hello, give a little life update, and more or less just kind of rant a little bit. I think it's fun, but yeah, like always, go ahead and hit the, like, rate, share, review on whatever podcast platform you listen to this on. This won't be on the YouTube channel because I'm just posting the audio. But feel free to go to the YouTube channel for Les Mental Performance and subscribe. Watch the episodes we have up there. Like, comment, any support y'all can provide would be greatly appreciated. And even tell your friends. Maybe that someone needs to hear this message about fear, but also could benefit from being able to reflect on what they do well, what they don't do well, and how they can use that to kind of motivate them moving forward. Yeah. Other than that, you all have a great rest of your day. Have a happy Sunday. Make sure it's a relaxing one. But then also, hey, let's get ready to get back after it tomorrow. So thank you all for your time. And don't forget, today is a great day to make an impact. Right, y'all. Have a good one.